This week we are discussing from chapter 25 to the end of Aisha Tyler's book, Self-Inflicted Wounds. I would have been so great as one of those people on The Price is Right who presents the prizes. I gotta move on. Firstly, I wanted to say I finally started reading all of those excessive endnotes that I talked about last week now that I finally figured out how to do that on the Kindle. And I would say it lasted about 4 or 5 chapters before I realized I had not really been missing anything by not reading all of the endnotes, and it was just making me click excessive things, so I stopped reading them again. Sorry. Also, this set of chapters was my favorite, and I wrote down that I couldn't tell if perhaps that was because these were more adult stories, and so therefore I could relate to them more, or if I thought perhaps they were just more fleshed out and therefore they carried more weight. And my favorite chapter out of this, my favorite section, we're getting Inception-y here, was probably chapter 27, which was the one about acting as if and then becoming as if. I can only do that with one hand. It's gonna bug me though. And I just felt like that was a really great piece of life advice, and I related to it on a very high level. Actually, when I moved to San Francisco, about 3 months ago, I moved there without ever seeing an actual job description for the job that I was starting. And so, for about 3 weeks, I had to act as if I knew what an associate producer actually did until I finally figured out what an associate producer really does do. And I would say that it worked out pretty well, because when I finally quit and ended that job, they did not want me to. So I would say becoming as if is a good piece of advice. However, I am not saying that you should move 2,000 miles away from home not knowing exactly what you're going to be doing, because some people would say that was stupid. I had a lot of fun though, so there you have it. The Twitter chapter had some really great quotes, and all of them were fairly obvious, but it was nice reading them. Such as, here's the truth, as helpful as it may be and as important as it may seem, the internet hates you, and people that live inside the internet hate you, the troll that lives under the bridge hates you, and they are all just waiting, just dying for you to make a mistake. I also made a note that this is probably the one chapter that I would recommend most people reading, or at least most teenagers who I so often see online tweeting or making videos or saying whatever the hell is on their mind. And I have been that person as well. Also, Aisha Tyler compares the tweet button to a detonate button at one point, which I would say is fairly accurate. And then the apologizing chapter I found really great too, especially when it talked about how people are constantly angry all the time and at everything at all, ever. And then I also thought this apology chapter was pretty clever too, because it covered everyone that Aisha Tyler could have offended in the text, albeit perhaps it wasn't a super sincere apology, but if I had been offended by anything in the text, which I was not, then it would have already been apologized for, so I cannot bitch about it like with other books that we've read where I've been offended by minor trivial things. Also, I do have a little bit to say about the final chapter that isn't numbered, or the coda chapter, but I'm gonna save that for my final review. So this week you can leave in the comments anything at all that you want to say about this book, whether it's about the book, the entire book as a whole, or about this section, because I will be reading and responding to your comments in next week's video. Also, if you have any, you can leave suggestions for what we should be reading next, because we will be starting a new book in about 2 or 3 weeks. So I will see you guys Wednesday.